If you know Powerpuff Girls, Professor mixed sugar, spice, and everything nice to create the Powerpuff Girls, but accidentally added chemical X. Yeah. We do not know what chemical X is in our case, but it's good for us to figure out why we want to be talking about love, life, and God.
I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to be a pastor anymore. I'm going to live and I'll just, live my life like anyone else where I don't have to be a moral gatekeeper, where I don't have to, answer to anyone, where I don't have to be accountable to anyone. Do you know that there are people who know you more than you?
Yeah.
But when you hear what they say about you, you actually be shocked that,
Yo.
Do I get at this level?
Yeah.
Love is the only thing that has hurt a lot of people.
Yes.
But they want to stay in it. I still need to get up and continue to be an example.
Okay.
And I still need to go through the difficulties of life.
Yeah.
And one thing that I've realized that I am right where I am, I could be 70% of who I should be married. Because I realized that life was designed to do with someone.
Yeah.
And to do with someone that you love, to do with someone that you are compatible with.
Your light has come. Today is your day to soar. Prepare your heart and raise your voice. What are you waiting for? The old has gone, the new has come. Yes, we are born anew. The love and wealth he had restored cleanses the soul.
Greetings, good people. Welcome to the first and inaugural episode of Love, Life, and God, where we explore what actually brings together these three very interesting concepts that pertain to life and to all things humanity. I am joined here by Ambassador Onward Gibson, and it's very wonderful to have you speaking with me right now. We want to unpack a lot of different things, and I think this is the opportunity for us to bring together very diverse concepts that apply to everyone who is listening and tuning in. My name is Makomborero Moropa, and I'm happy to be your host for this particular show. If you know Powerpuff Girls, Professor mixed sugar, spice, and everything nice to create the Powerpuff Girls, but accidentally added chemical X. Yeah. We do not know what chemical X is in our case, but it's good for us to figure out why we want to be talking about love, life, and God, all in one mix. But before we go into too much of those intricacies, would love to know, why Ambassador? Why this very elusive title that is called Ambassador? Please tell us as we get to know you a bit better.
I'm so excited about this podcast. I've been waiting for this for quite a long time, and I'm so excited that we're here. But Ambassador is a mix of two things, or three rather. The first is that I've been doing a lot of developmental work around youth, gender, and everything developmental for the past probably 10 years now. And I've represented my country, I've represented Africa, I have been on global stages, representing young people. And that's how, the name Ambassador, came from. And when I went to the US and I stayed a bit, I also was an ambassador for a youth program. And then I was conferred with an honorary citizenship because of the work that I was doing. So it actually then, steered, more the title. And on my life as a pastor, I'm the founder of New Creation Embassy Church, where we believe that we are ambassadors of Christ. And that's where
super
ambassador comes from. So from all these facets of my work and my life, the title is reinforced.
Wow. I think it's interesting when we cascade all these different titles, hats, and portfolios that you occupy. And I guess it makes it interesting why we are then now talking about life, and love and God.
Yeah.
And that's not to say that you are an authority in all three, but I think this is why we're having this conversation.
True.
It will be interesting as well for people to know how we actually met, because my version of the story is that you almost ran over me with a car in Masvingo. And that is essentially literally 5 years ago when I was, going about my day and minding my own business, and some vehicle decided that it required the road more than I did. And it literally almost hit me. But to our surprise, and I'm sure, I guess there's a way in which people meet, right? Certain things must occur for
and my vision of story goes like, we had just started New Creation Embassy in Masvingo. So we had a drive. I had a drive that I said I would win one soul a day. So I just those moments that when I see someone and I just feel like, I can give them a word, I can invite them to church, I can, preach to them. And I saw you and I was like, you know what, this is the kind of people that we need in.
Oh yeah, I was dressed very nicely that day, I remember.
Definitely.
Suits,
always.
Looking serious.
Yes.
Living my best dream in Masvingo.
So I was like with a few pastors, two of my close pastors, and they said, this is the guy today. And then we had to stop the car.
Yes.
Your version is running over, but my version is like pull over.
Yes, pull over, running over.
And then I talked to you and I invited you to church. And it has never been the same. It has never been the same.
Absolutely. And I think that's certainly how, some of these interactions begin in very unlikely ways. And I think that's also how life approaches us. I think there are certain situations that require us to have a crazy intervention, right, for them to begin making sense.
That's true.
And I would love to know, is life always supposed to make sense based on your experiences? I think what I often struggle with is genuinely trying to figure out if I should know every day, I should know like what's going to happen tomorrow and the next day and the next day. And then it drives me crazy when I don't.
Yeah. I think the concept of life, and I'm excited about this podcast because when I was thinking about it and obviously praying about it, I then realized that people live through life differently. And one of the things that we're going to be doing, we're not going to be doing the, conventional way. We're going to bring everybody because we know that everybody, has a story to tell in terms of their life, how they live in terms of their life, their love life. But at the center of the conversation is also, their story in relation to what God is doing in their lives. And I think not everything has to make sense in life. You realize that our stories are different. And you realize that when you go to the Bible, for example, and you look at everyone who walks with God, it never made sense to Joshua. God himself has said, come to say, you know what, I'm part of your story, but I want you to be strong and courageous. Because in life, there is always that test of courage that everyone who is going through life has to go through. So not everything has to make sense. Sometimes you figure it out as you are moving with life. Sometimes it's a learning by doing. And I've always said God is called the Alpha and Omega. So if he's the Alpha, it means that he's going to begin with you. If he's the Omega, it means that he's going to end with you. Yeah. But what's in between? most of the time it's you who is figuring out. God will show you and say, this is where I want you to go. But how to go there, the character that you need to possess to be able to walk in that journey, it doesn't give you. You figure it out by yourself.
But I also think there's a lot that God challenges us to do that certainly feels bigger than who we are, right?
Yeah.
And as I was reflecting on that as you were talking about test of character. And would you say that when you started the church, New Creation Embassy, that was your biggest test of character, or it was one of those scenarios where your character and your strength of resolve and your courage, was tested in the creation of New Creation Embassy?
Yeah, one of the things that I would tell you that you almost want to give up every day of your life, because when you are leading and you are a leader, what it means is that you need to develop that character every day. You meet hurdles, you meet challenges every day, and you have to go through it. So being, I never wanted to start New Creation Embassy.
Really?
When I was pastoring in another church, and for about 2 years, and then I started facing a lot of challenges, bigger challenges, and I decided I'm not gonna do this. I'm not gonna be a pastor anymore. I'm gonna leave, and I'll just live my life like anyone else, where I don't have to be a moral gatekeeper, where I don't have to answer to anyone, where I don't have to be accountable to anyone. But I realized 2-3 months into my sabbatical that I didn't have a life outside of it. And then the story began, and that's then eventually when we decided to start New Creation Embassy. And it was after a lot of praying and waiting and learning, and eventually it happened. And like what you say, it is like the biggest challenge that I had to take, but God is gracious.
Absolutely, and thank God for that. I think there's something that you also mentioned that I found quite interesting: moral gatekeeping. I often wonder how pastors, men of cloth, men of faith, how they continue to exist in a world that constantly wants to push us into different things. I mean, the world is a fun place, right? And then there's a way in which that moral gatekeeping seems to us, I guess people who are watching, seems to keep you out of all these fun activities that pertain to life. We often wonder, when does the networking happen? When does the friend building happen? When does the self-care and the chilling happening in the life of someone like you and of people who are working within the faith in a very, very devoted way? How would you explain what your life has been in that regard?
That's very that's very difficult, and I'm still learning. I wouldn't want to say that I'm there in terms of creating what is called balance in this life. And that also has costed me a lot. And for me, I'm not just a man of God. I'm a businessman. I'm an entrepreneur, both entrepreneurship and as well as even social entrepreneurship. I work within public health sector, and I do consultancy work. I'm doing media. I'm selling clothes. I'm just trying to do everything, and all these things keep me busy. And it has been very difficult to then create a balance with my life as a pastor. So you go through stuff, and you have to go on. You try to build relationships, and you try to build friendships, and they're not sustained. So it's a very difficult test. But when you talk about enjoyment, I mean I enjoy my work as a pastor, as a shepherd. I really enjoy building people. I enjoy studying the word. So I could be in my own space and I'm enjoying studying the word.
Yeah.
I'm also enjoying, studying up things and seeing them grow. I'm enjoying the conversations that I have with individuals, and I can contribute to their growth. I've tried, enjoying going to some shows, pitching up at restaurants, but there's never been quite exciting for me.
Yeah.
So there are things that excite me that unfortunately don't, would not be regarded as excitement to others. But when you talk about the moral gatekeeping, I think what's important is transparency.
Yeah.
What's important is also to make sure that you are accountable as a leader to your actions, and you try to do whatever it takes to make sure that you continue inspiring those that follow you, and you become an example to those that you lead. And trust me, that doesn't have anything to do with tying yourself down and not enjoying life. You travel here and there, you have conversations with friends, you flex once in a while. It's not sin.
Yeah.
You see, this generation that we are, we used to have, those very serious pastors
Yes,
in
very.
brown suits. When you're going
Brown
to greet them,
suits, yes.
greet them and say, "How are you, men of God?" They're like, "Glory, glory, glory, glory be to God." But we live, the world is evolving. But I think we also have a generational mandate, and we have to make sure, without compromising on the word, but making sure that we are up to our task in terms of, responding to the needs and to the life and how people are living. That's one of the reasons why we're doing podcasts.
Yeah. At least there's that communication.
Pastors going to do podcasts and inviting people who are regarded as from the world. It was not fashionable. Now we're doing it. We can go to church without suits and it's still fine. iPads, still fine. Tens a beat, still fine.
That's true. I mean, he did call us people of the world, so we will take great offense in that statement and say it's a constructive criticism unto us to be more vigilant, so that we can.
Not even. Look. The reason why you will see us inviting a lot of these guys,
people.
and remember, I said those who are regarded.
Oh, okay, fine.
Yeah, because you find that a person can be known. We can know someone about their life, being an actor, being an actress, being a musician there. It doesn't mean that they don't have a conviction about God. It doesn't mean they are not serving God. It doesn't mean that they don't love God or they don't pray. It just means that life behind, we don't see it. So those are some of the conversations that we're also going to be having. So regarded.
We have been corrected, and we will take that into advisement. I think what's also interesting about the story itself of how you maintain that moral uprightness, but also existing in a space where there are different competing interests, is the way in which certainly you keep yourself busy and occupied in things that you enjoy doing.
Yeah.
I guess it'll be interesting for us to then know that in the doing that, obviously eyes will be, keeping tabs and trying to figure out, what keeps them busy? What occupies them in a way that creates this mystique, And I think that also invites loving eyes, the way in which people actually want to hear more, learn more, how has that been? And just tell us about, some of the challenges that come with creating that mystique, but also how you take yourself out of that and just exist.
I mean, it's hard. You talk about loving eyes, but there are also like a lot of hateful hearts, not eyes, hateful hearts. but one of the things is that when you are gifted and when you're doing something with your life, you need to realize that you always have haters.
Yeah.
You have people who hate you for nothing.
Uh-huh.
You have people that will create stories out of nothing.
Uh-huh.
You have people that will, I said one of the times that, do you know that there are people who know you more than you?
Yeah.
But when you hear what they say about you, you actually be shocked that,
Yo.
do I get at this level?
Yeah.
And which has taught me a lot, because there was a time that I would be worried, and there was a time that I would, I would get it into my head.
Yeah.
But I just learned that, it's part of life. There are people that are intimidated by you for nothing wrong. They just have their own insecurities that have nothing to do with you.
Yeah.
But it also excites me, because the more people talk about you, the more you are relevant. People can only talk about someone who is relevant.
Certainly.
So I hear these stories, I'm like, okay, I'm doing well.
They say good there's no bad publicity.
There's no bad publicity.
Apparently.
Well, some stories are bad.
Certainly.
But like what you say, you also meet people that love you, people that are inspired by you, people that look up to you every day, and those are the people that you want to focus on. And I also believe in, authenticity, that in this time we really need to be authentic in our conversations, to be authentic in our everyday life, so that we create relationships that that are going to benefit those that you meet every day. So I've really met a lot of people that I have had very good relationships with, and I have also, through those relationships and through that love, through that authenticity, been able to contribute to their lives, and there are many of them. And I believe that you can only impact people one at a time. So you get that a lot, and it's interesting.
Interesting. For those who are joining us, we are talking about love, life, and God, the way in which all these three things intersect but converge at the point of goodness, of a lot of different things that pertain to life. So I think we need to sort of think about life in that way, and how we can also begin to tap into what actually drives us as we talk about our lives, what drives us as we talk about God and our relationship with Him, and also what drives us when we're talking about LOVE. The one thing that is very difficult to talk about, the one thing we think we're all experts in. I am not one, certainly. But it would be wonderful to hear some of your theories around that, how people come together, what keeps people together, how people find one another. Because I think we're living in a time where there's less and less of that genuine connection, right? And when we find it, we don't really know how best to go about it. How do we even sever, to see whether this is good, this is bad, this is just infatuation, this is something we must pursue. I don't know, give us something on that, like how we go about it, what we look for.
I think that life offers people and things in different ways. But the only thing that we can use to differentiate love and lust is that lust is quick. Lust is fast.
Yeah.
Lust is fast. But even the Bible says love is patient. And we are living in a generation where we don't have patience in terms of success, because we see people, showing us success. And even now we live in a time of social media.
Yeah.
Where no one has to post their bedside. Someone can hire cars and start, posting. Someone posts, the best, and that's what is always there. And when people look from the outside, they will start, looking at that and being envious about people's lives, and that's when you, see people losing it,
Yeah.
and trying to do, things very fast and trying to live a lie.
Yeah.
And that's what defeats love itself. Because when you love something, you gotta be patient. When you love something, you gotta be intentional. When you love something, you need to learn. And even in our relationships, that learning has actually been removed, because we meet and want to click and want to connect, and we act like we know each other already, and we leave the most important aspects of our connection, and that has costed us, and that has costed this generation. Love is the only thing that has hurt a lot of people.
Yes.
But they want to stay in it.
That's scary, but very deep as well. I think there's the understanding that love is very, very powerful. It's a powerful force, it's a powerful feeling for good and also for bad because of what it can make us do.
Yeah.
But more so for good because of who it allows us to become, right? The way in which love can extract greatness.
Yeah.
Love can put us on pedestals that we never thought were possible.
Yeah.
And I think...
And love can kill us.
Of course. Depression, stress, anxiety.
I really never believed in depression. I really never thought, depression is a thing. I have traveled and I lived in the US, and I saw people with anxiety, people with depression. And I was like, this is a white phenomenon. But, this could be, my first time even talking about this. One of the greatest hard moments of my life was when I had to go through divorce. And when you're talking about even the New Creation Embassy story, I, centered my leadership journey around building trust, and because of my marriage. And this is what I was, holding so dearly. And then there was a time that I had to see it slipping away. And I had to try and fight to make sure that, the marriage survives. And for almost 2 years, I was trying to fix everything. Because I thought that if I'm going to lose this, I have lost everything. I've lost life. I've lost the ministry. I've lost trust. And I've lost myself, as a leader. And then just a year ago, what got me my honorarium citizenship was me in America launching my book in 6 states. And the title of the book was Too Late to Fail.
Wow.
And I was inspiring everyone, and every place that I spoke, I remember in 6 states I had to do almost 2-3 sessions a day. That was a lot. And I was telling people that you cannot fail in this life.
Wow.
And you then realize that where I got to became the greatest challenge of my life. But I then also realized that sometimes we can do things for people and want to please people, and why we are not happy.
Yeah.
And then it affects, every area of our lives. And what I went through, I've always told people that what I went through, I don't want anyone to go through it, because it's a very painful process.
Yep.
I had to go through depression. I then even had to then go through therapy.
Wow.
And I'm still going through therapy right now. You know, there's also all sorts of stigma that is associated with men, you know, seeking help. But I am still going therapy until today. There was a time that I was addicted to antidepressants, and I had to go through it and learn the hard way.
Yeah.
But fast forward, I'm here now, and I also realized that while things had not worked out, love is still precious.
Yep.
I still need to get up and continue to be an example. And I still need to go through the difficulties of life.
Yeah.
And one thing that I've realized, that I am right where I am. I could be 70% of who I should be married. Because I realized that life was designed to do with someone.
Yeah.
And to do with someone that you love, to do with someone that you are compatible with, and to do with someone that you can never, get tired of.
Yeah.
So these are some of the things that, have happened to me, and I continue to learn every day, and I continue to reflect every day, because, when things fail, one of the things that people do in this life is to find people to blame. But we never have our own self-introspection to say, what contributed? What did I contribute to this failure? When a relationship ends, you can point at someone and say, they were so bad, they did this to me, they were not good to me. But we don't reflect and check and say, what was my contribution to it?
Yeah, and I think that is the power of introspection, how we can assess our lives and judge for ourselves whether we acted in the best interest in certain spaces. But above all, the fact that you were able to share that story and to also let us know the transformative power of sitting with our thoughts and also acknowledging when we need help. And I think that's the push for mental health, especially among men, the fact that we can suffer in silence and not have an outlet. And I think that's what kills a lot of young and upcoming gents, women. It could be anyone. And at the point of failure, you can lose everything. Yeah.
You can lose friends, you can lose colleagues, you can lose people that you even look up to. Because no one wants to be associated with failure.
And that's scary.
No one wants to be associated with failure. So when you look like you have failed, most of the time you are on your own. And I discovered that, in the scriptures you find that David encouraged himself in the Lord. So you need to get at that point where you need to pick up yourself. Because one of the things that I learned is that what God gave you, even when people leave you, God cannot take it away from you.
Yeah.
So you need then to believe from in the power that is inside of you. And you need to believe that wherever you have arrived, you have that power to go there.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And I think that's something we need to all know. The fact that what is vested within us is not deleted because certain things have happened to us in life. And I often reflect on that to say, what has happened to me. I have a very good friend of mine, who recommended a book, about unpacking what has happened to us. Because the moment we ask that question, right, we begin to see and separate who we are from what happened, right? And I think that's sort of where we are. And I'm curious now to know, how then do we do the going back to God, to not necessarily in questioning why these things happen to us, but do we go back in the acceptance of what has occurred? Do we go back to God in questioning? Did you go back to God in either of these two, or in I don't know, in celebration, sometimes the verse that says, in all things give thanks, that is a very difficult verse for me.
Very.
I do not know how
How
how to do, yeah, exactly.
Everything.
Yeah.
I have learned through this journey that we, have our wishes in this life, and God has His story that He wants to achieve with everyone, with us, independent of our circumstances.
Yeah.
So when God looks at what He wants to achieve with you, it doesn't matter how you think you will get there.
Yeah.
Because we have a tendency of wanting to trust what surrounds us with our stories. When God is saying, if I've called you to get there, you are going to get there no matter what happens along the journey. When He said to the children of Israelites, you are going to go to the promised land, He meant it.
Yeah.
It was supposed to take 40 days. It had to take 40 years. How did it take 40 years? Because the children of Israel would forget the God story about their lives. And I don't want to lie, because I think I'm just one person who loves being authentic in relationships. I'm just somebody who loves, telling the truth and living the truth. I don't want to live a lie.
Yeah.
And I had to get to a point where I asked God why the things that I loved, so much, He had gotten to a time where they didn't work out. But I realized that when Jesus says, I am, when He likens Himself to a tree, and He says we are the branches, and says every branch that is supposed to produce more fruits, what does He do? He prunes it. So I believe God has a way of removing all those things that you put trust in. Because in this life, your marriage can be your God.
Yeah.
Your business can be your God. Your car can be your God. Your beauty can become your God. And God has a way of removing this.
Yeah.
And you wonder, I've been taking care of myself. I've been taking care of my business. I wake up every day to work. And why is this being removed from me? Why am I losing this? So you ask God, but at the same time, you then appreciate God. Because one of the things that I got to appreciate is that, there's a statement that says, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Yeah.
So after it all, I'm alive. And one of the things that I had to work on was getting myself back together.
Okay.
And trusting God with my life and saying, if I have tried this and it didn't work, then I have to get back and trusting God.
Yeah.
And not trusting anything else.
Well, we should be grateful for those giant pimples that appear on our face that remind us not to trust, in the fact that we look a certain way and there's some handsomeness to go around.
Lotions.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. and skincare. But it certainly reminds us of that carnality that we sometimes exist in, as individuals living in the world but not being of the world.
Yeah.
I think sometimes we forget, right? We forget that there is, I guess, a place where we need to be and a place where we ought to be, where God has predestined us to be. And sometimes that place requires us without certain things. And creating that separation, from bad friends, bad associates, bad everything can be very difficult.
Yeah.
It's hard to leave your habits. It's hard to leave.
It's
hard to leave the things you like, right?
And it's more hard when God Himself then has to step in and remove your friends from you. When God has to step in and remove all the things that you like. I tell you, in my young life, I did not party, but there's time that I went to different shows. But recently I was in a foreign country and people were like, no, there's a show there.
Let's go.
I got there and I was just sitting. I was like, I see everyone dancing. I'm like, well, what's exciting here? I'm almost sleeping and it's getting cold. And I'm like this, and people are like, so. And one of the things that you then also need to realize that when God wants to start a story, there's a time that you can do it by yourself.
Yeah.
But when you can do it by yourself, it's not a big testimony. When God removes it from you by himself, then it becomes a big story.
Yeah.
And I think then you realize then how grace works. All people in this world who are being judgmental about other people's lives is because they did it by themselves. If God did it to you, you realize that God can do it to the next person. And you're not going to judge anyone for how they live. You only can pray for them and wish them well. And wish that after you even try to talk them out of what you think is bad, the next thing you're going to pray and say, I think God has to do it for them. And God, when God does it for you, it's settled.
Wow. That is the challenge. And I think how we let God deal with our situations for us versus how we deal with them ourselves. And a lot of us are genuinely control freaks. We want to know, we want to fix everything. We want to do everything. Things have to be done by our power, our might, our knowledge, our intelligence. When all these things are literally nothing, when we actually allow God to take control of that. That is difficult. I mean, we've been talking about a lot of difficult things today. And I think that is the challenge. But I would love to know any final thoughts, I guess, about some of the things we've been talking about here, how life locates us and brings us into communion with people who we are meant to be with. How life teaches us certain lessons that are difficult, that are painful. And how life, through God and through love, bring us all together, back together, the process of going, coming again,
Yeah. One of the things and the reason why we're going to be talking about life and love and God is that these things are interlinked. That, sometimes we live life and we think that when we are with God, life is void of challenges. But we really need to, introspect and also learn that, our lives are different. And everyone story is also different. Some people get it together very quickly. Some, it will take a time. And some, their success, which is quick, will dwindle in a minute. And some, their success, which is gradual, will live even forever, and they'll be impactful. And we need also to talk about, how then love comes into play, because love is also at the center of, our success. And, love is something that we have to live with. I said it, I still believe in love, and I want to love, and I want to be loved. And I want to, after, what happened to me, I still want to get to that point where I can be an example to my kids, to everyone that, that follows me and that believes in me, to say, things can work again. By the way, I'm actually writing my next book.
That's great.
Which is called Failing Forward.
Wow.
Yes. And another one which is called Success Without Friends.
We are going to unpack that in a future session.
And I think this is a book that has never been written, Success Without Friends. And I also talk about something that is very important, which is called Success Without a Mentor.
Wow.
Because you realize that when things happen in your life, a lot of people give up on you. and you find yourself when you are alone. But you need to keep things going. You're not going to use as an excuse in this life that you did not find mentors, or you were not very close to mentors, or there's someone that you love that you thought they could teach you and you did not get closer to them.
Yeah.
You find yourself without friends, but that does not become an excuse. You can not do anything about your past,
Yeah.
because it's in the past, but you can certainly do something about your future, and you have to wake up. So I believe that we need to then continue being an example. I believe, and I've always said that the Bible says he who finds a wife
Finds a good thing.
And
obtains favor from the Lord.
From the Lord.
Yeah.
So any man without a wife is a good example of how grace works. But your wife becomes your favor agent.
Pressure.
There's a saying that trimmer flat tire. Pressure. So I discover, like I said, you can operate at your maximum. I'm doing well. Trust me, I'm doing well. I'm seeing God in the things that I'm doing. And I'm seeing the things that I'm building and establishing, going on, growing, establishing this and growing it. And I love it for me. And I love it for God, because I believe that God is doing all these things for me. But at the end of it all, you need favor.
That is the gift of conversation. Unpacking very challenging things and being told, you know what, you are yet to be better because there's someone who hasn't been added to you. I will take that up on advice.
I flying. I'm in Ghana. I am in the US. I'm in the UK. I'm in where? Doing very well. You're doing very well, by the way.
We're trying our best.
Time should come.
The pressure. But that was us talking to Ambassador Onward Gibson here on Love, Life, and God, where we truly unpack all things that pertain to life, the elusive but deeply passionate love, and the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, the Trinity, where we really pack and unpack some of the things that really pertain to life and what grounds us in a number of ways. Yes. So thank you so much for joining us, and stay tuned for more on this program. Cheers.
See you.